Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular meeting of council. Just going to start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we live, work, and gather on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people, specifically the Temiskaming First Nation. We recognize the presence of the Temiskaming First Nation in our community since time immemorial and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift their voice and values. Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Roll call.
Your Worship, all members are present.
Item number 3, review of revisions or deletions to the agenda.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to add an item under notice of motion, item 14.
Duly noted. Any other changes? Councillor.
Just under the reports by council, the Hilliard Turn Marsh, please. Hilliard Turn Marsh, under number 13.
So approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that City Council approves the agenda as amended. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Pelche-Living. Seconded by Councillor, Graydon. All in favor? That motion is carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature? Seeing none. We'll move on to review and adoption of the council minutes. I do have a resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that City Council approves the following minutes as printed. A, the regular meeting of council held on November the 1st, 2022. B, the inaugural meeting of council held on November 21st, 2022. And the special meeting of council held on November 22nd, 2022. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Graydon. And a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Ducharme. Any comments? Questions? All in favor? And that motion is carried. Moving on to item 7. The public meeting. It's public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act, Municipal Act, and other statutes. The public meeting scheduled tonight is for 1, a zoning bylaw amendment application. The Planning Act requires that a public meeting be held before council decides whether to pass a bylaw adopting a proposed amendment. The public meeting serves 2 purposes. First, to present to council and the public the details and background to the proposed amendment, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before a decision is made by council. I now declare the meeting to be open and to be a public meeting pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. The zoning bylaw amendment application to be heard this evening is application number ZBA 2022-03. The owner, the trustees of the Hillview United Church. The applicant is Donna Demeray. The subject land, 884402 Highway 65 West. Purpose of the application is to rezone the property to permit a single detached residential dwelling and to recognize a reduced lot area for a lot on private services. Jennifer Pye will present the application. Jen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay. So the application that we're considering tonight is a site-specific amendment, so it only applies to this property, and it seeks to rezone the property from community facilities, or CF, to rural residential exception 1, with an exception to allow the conversion of the existing church building on the property into a single detached dwelling, and to recognize a reduced lot area for the property for a lot on municipal services. and the property is more locally known as the Hillview Pioneer Memorial United Church, and it was constructed in 1962. Okay, so you can see the property here in blue. It fronts on Highway 65 West, and it's located between Golf Course Road and the Forest Road, and that strip of existing houses and residential development along Highway 65 West. And this is just an aerial image from our GIS system. You can see it's an irregularly shaped property, so it's not a perfect rectangle, and it's located across from an existing farm, and we'll talk about why that's significant later on. Okay, so this picture was taken from Highway 65, and it looks south into the property, and you can see there on both the left and right-hand side of the picture that there are two entrances onto Highway 65 West, and we'll talk about that later on as well. And so this photo here was taken from the southeast corner looking northwest, and you can see in the picture that the property does tend to slope a little bit towards the south, so it's higher at the highway side than it is at the back, and there is a treed area at the back of the property. Okay, so the first policy that I look at in these presentations is the city's official plan. So in our official plan, the property is designated as agricultural land, and it's located outside of the area designated by the province as prime agricultural land. So still within the city's designated agricultural land, but it doesn't have that extra layer of protection from the PPS for prime agricultural land. The agricultural land designation permits all types of farming and uses that are related to or directly support agriculture. It also allows residential uses directly related to agriculture, secondary uses, and natural features. And that bottom policy there about community facilities and infrastructure, so other types of uses are discouraged, and they're directed more toward the settlement areas, which are the existing built-up areas of the city. Existing uses within the agricultural designation are recognized, and accommodations are provided to allow for these uses to continue and expand when needed. So the official plan does contain provisions for existing lots of record in the agricultural land designation, as long as these lots were legally created prior to the adoption of the official plan, and that was March of 2015. And it does allow for the use of these properties for a residential dwelling, provided that the list of conditions that are set out on the slide are met. So agricultural or other permitted uses are not feasible or practical on the lot, so for this property it's quite undersized, and agricultural uses would not be feasible for this property. The lot has to contain a limited amount of arable land, which is generally less than 4 hectares. This lot is just under an acre, so it meets that condition. The proposed dwelling must comply with the MDS Formula 1 using a Type B land use. So MDS is a minimum distance separation, and I'll talk about that one a little bit later too. The site must be suitable for residential construction, so there's an existing building on the property that will need to be converted through a building permit, so we'll deal with that through the building permit process. The soil must be suitable for an individual on-site sewage disposal service. Again, we'll talk about that one in a minute. A potable water supply will be available. We'll talk about that one too. And the lot abuts a fully maintained public road, so it does abut Highway 65 West, which is fully maintained by the province. So the property is currently zoned as community facilities in the City of Temiskaming Shores zoning bylaw, and the permitted uses in the CF zone are set out on this slide. The current use would be considered a place of worship under the definitions of the zoning bylaw, so again, it would be a legally permitted use on the property. And so the proposed zoning, again, is rural residential with an exception. What the exception does is it just recognizes a deviation between what the zoning bylaw requires in the parent zone and what is actually happening on the specific property. Okay, so permitted uses in the rural residential zone include a single detached dwelling, a cemetery, and a group home. So the applicant is proposing here a single detached dwelling. And so that exception to recognize the undersized lot, the zoning bylaw requires a minimum of 4,000 meters squared or 1 acre for an R1 property, and that's to accommodate a well and septic system to make sure we have the proper size. This property is just a little bit less than that at 0.927 acres, and the health unit has been consulted on this, and they've indicated that for existing properties, if they are undersized, they don't quite meet that 1 acre, they will allow for development on those lots as they're existing, as long as they have the separation distance between the well and the septic system. Okay, so the minimum distance separation is a provincial requirement that's established in the provincial policy statement, and it's implemented through the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, and their publication number for that is 853, and that sets out all of the guidelines for applying the MDS. The goal of the MDS is to reduce conflict between livestock facilities and non-agricultural uses, and it applies to both new non-agricultural uses in proximity to existing livestock operations, as well as new or expanding livestock operations in proximity to existing non-agricultural uses. And there are two different formulas that apply to either of those situations that we would use. So in this case, it would be an MDS1, as it's a new residential use in proximity to an existing livestock operation across the street. MDS is only designed to minimize nuisance odor issues. It doesn't deal with things like noise, flies, anything like that. It's specifically for odor. And so for this application, an MDS calculation was not required, and this was confirmed with OMAFRA. As the existing church, it would already be considered a Type B land use, which is a more intense land use, and it requires a greater separation distance than a Type A land use. So the conversion to the residential use does not increase the intensity of the use or the potential for conflict in accordance with that guideline. So MDS was not required. I just wanted to make you aware that it would typically apply in this situation. So the property fronts on Highway 65 West, which is owned and maintained by the Ministry of Transportation, the provincial government through the Ministry of Transportation. So MTO was circulated for comments. Okay. So MTO did provide comments. They're going to require the closure and removal of one of the existing entrances, and that's going to include the reinstatement of the right-of-way between the property and the highway itself. All signage on the property must be removed, and a change of ownership permit must be obtained from the MTO, and that's to reflect the change in use, as well as MTO needs to keep up with the owners of the properties as well for when they're doing work and maintenance on the highway. And a building and land use permit will also be required for any new buildings or structures within 45 meters of the Highway 65 right-of-way. So if the septic system is going to be closer than that 45 meters, then it would be required in that instance too. So a copy of these comments from MTO are going to be included in your administrative report package, so you don't need to worry about remembering all of this or looking back at the presentation when you make your decision. Okay, so the septic system, like I mentioned, it was installed in the 1960s, and the records for the system can't be located either in our office or in the Temiskaming Health Unit office. So the Temiskaming Health Unit wouldn't be able to certify the existing system, and the applicant has supplied an affidavit that they're going to install a new system on the property before occupancy is granted for the residential conversion. The health unit has been out to inspect the property, and they've indicated that the property can support a new system in accordance with the current building code requirements. And for the well, a well record and water record test has been supplied by the applicant for the existing well on the property. Okay, so the application was advertised in the Temiskaming Speaker beginning on November 16th, which was 20 days before this meeting, and that's a statutory requirement of the Planning Act, so we've met that. We also mail notices to property owners within 120 meters as a subject land. This is as a courtesy, and that can be a statutory requirement under the Planning Act, but it's you have to do another step with it that we haven't traditionally done here. We circulate to internal department heads. No concerns or objections have been received. We circulate to statutory commenting agencies under the Planning Act, and no comments or concerns have been received from those agencies or from members of the public. Next steps for council, an administrative report package will be submitted to you for the December 20th regular council meeting, and then you'll decide either to approve the request by passing a bylaw or refuse it. To refuse an application, the resolution of refusal must include reasons for the refusal. So after that, the notice of decision is sent to the applicant and anyone who has presented to council or sent letters requesting the notice, and that's done within 15 days of the decision being made. And decisions can be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days of that notice being sent out. If no appeals are filed, then the decision is considered to be in full force and effect as of the date of your decision.
Thanks, Jennifer. Are there any questions or comments from the applicant? I see Donna's here. No? Thank you. I'll ask Jennifer to read any written comments that have been received. None? Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? If so, please approach the podium and give your name and full mailing address so that it can be recorded in the minutes. Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from council? there are no further comments, I declare the portion of the public meeting to be closed and advise the council will give due consideration to all comments received. An administration report will be considered by council at a future meeting. And that brings us to item 8, our first question and answer period. Do you have any? Nothing? Awesome. We have no presentations or delegations. We'll move on to item 10, our communications. 10A, Amanda Masulka, a resident of Haileybury, re-Niven Street speeding, and that reference has been referred to the Public Works Committee. B, Sheila Randall, Secretary, Earlton Temiskaming Regional Airport Authority, read the September and October 2022 financials, and that was received for information. Be it resolved that City Council agrees to deal with communications items 10A through B according to the agenda references. Can I get a mover?
Actually, can I comment?
Yeah, once it's tabled.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Seconded by Councillor Foley. Discussion.
Sorry.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Amanda for sending the letter, and I think it's it's really important that we have safe streets, and it's very important that residents bring these issues forward. I must say I've had numerous comments that are in the same on the same topic as this letter, and I just want to make the comment that this is an issue right across Ontario, and as a councillor, I just want to support residents who bring these issues forward, and I will do everything that I can, working with staff and council, to address these issues. So I just wanted to make that point to respond to the letter, and that we'll see more response to this for sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Anyone else? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Could I also ask that letter regarding Niven Street speeding be passed on to the Police Service Board as well, just so there's a record of it at the detachment? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Anyone else?
I also wanted to thank Ms. Masulka for taking the time to write to us about these concerns. I think it would have been quite unsettling to see a vehicle accelerate through a stop sign rather than stop for it. So my heart goes out to her and her family for what they would have felt at that time. And I'm pleased to see the concern at council for this, and I trust that we'll be proactive to try and find solutions that will be not pinpointed to one specific area, but maybe so with documentation, the way this resident has come forward, it helps to see the extent of the problem and the situation so that we can think about solutions that will work across the board. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Peltier-Living. Any further comments?
Yeah, I also just wanted to take a second to address Ms. Masulka's letter, because it's something that I think is experienced across our city, and I think there are a lot of I'm glad that it's going to the Police Services Board. Thank you, Councillor Whalen, but also Public Works, so that hopefully we can use some of the knowledge that of ways that we can actually curb speeding. Other communities have done it quite well, and I think that there are solutions we can implement that will work in our community too.
Thanks, Councillor Ducharme. Any other comments? All those in favor? That motion is carried. Move on to item 11, Committees of Council, Community and Regional. And I have a draft resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Earlton Temiskaming Airport meeting held on October the 13th, 2022. And B, the minutes of the Temiskaming Transit Committee meetings held on October the 5th and November the 10th, 2022. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Pelche-Living. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Discussion? Anybody, any questions? Comments? All those in favor? That motion is carried. Item number 12, committees of council, internal departments. I have a draft resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that the following minutes be accepted for information. A, the minutes of the Recreation Services Committee meeting held on October the 17th, 2022. B, the minutes of the Climate Change Committee meeting held on October the 18th, 2022. C, the minutes of the Building Maintenance Committee meeting held on October the 20th, 2022. D, the minutes of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held on October the 20th, 2022. E, the minutes of the Protection to Persons and Property Committee meeting held on October 20th, 2022. And F, the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting held on October the 20th, 2022. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Foley. Seconder? Discussion? All in favor? And that motion is carried. And item 13, reports by members of council. And I believe Councillor Pelche-Living would like to discuss the Hilliard Marsh.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to note that I've attended a number of community events that were held in the last month and quite enjoyed that. And you can tell there's a lot of quality and planning and devoted people who are involved in that. And to add to that, I saw an article I wanted to just acknowledge and congratulate the Hilliard Marsh. They were awarded to be one of the best wetland visitor centers in the world. There was only 2 that were recognized in Canada, so I'm not sure if people noticed that or if that news just kind of passed them by. But this is a big asset in our area that that's well known for the people who use. So I was pleased to see that. It was at a convention in Geneva. The award was by the Wetland Link International. And in the art, so this was in the CBC.ca article, and it's quoted as being near Temiskaming shores. So obviously this is part of the assets that we can showcase. They provide educational opportunities for families, and so it's one more high quality attraction for residents and visitors. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thanks you, Councillor Pelche-Living. Any other reports from council? Okay, we'll move on to notice of motions. Councillor Wilson?
Yes, I'm just making a notice of motion. I'm considering putting my name forward as a director for the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and I will be looking for council support with the motion brought to the December 20th meeting. So I just wanted to make that notice at this point. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Councillor Wilson, and we'll make sure that it is on the agenda for our next meeting. Any other notice of motions? No? Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Item A, it's January to October 2022 year-to-date capital financial report. Be it resolved, the Council of the City of Temiskaming Shores hereby acknowledges receipt of the January to October year-to-date capital financial report for information purposes. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Pelche-Living. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Wilson. And discussion? Maybe I just ask Stephanie Olivier if she could just maybe give us a little bit of an overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the capital financial report is a monthly budget variance report for all of our capital projects and procurement of equipment and such. And it also indicates the completion status of every individual project. This is provided to council for information purposes on a monthly basis, and it's prepared by the finance department, but always in consultation with every department head. So council can expect to see this report usually for the second meeting of every month, just due to timing of our month-end closing. And that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any questions? Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, not a question, just comment. I want to thank staff. I've always been a strong proponent of getting the municipal budget passed before the end of the year. So come January 1, when staff comes in, they hit the road running. And this report usually shows that if council does their part, staff certainly does theirs. So just, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Any other comments? Oh, sorry.
I just have a question. Could you just explain the little chart on the right that has the green and the red and the GYR? Just wanted to make sure I understood that.
So the green ones would be projects that are on track, and the percentage just tells you the completion status, which is provided by each department head. The yellow would be a project that may have a delay or something going on with it, and red are usually projects that are on hold or deferred.
Sir, go ahead.
So for say the second line, the Grant drain and the Peters Road drain, it says 0%, but there's no color. So that's why I wasn't sure.
Did you want to go ahead and answer that?
That one there, I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that project. I believe it's deferred, but I'll have to look into that one.
So those drains are actually municipal drain projects, infrastructure projects, likely to be significant construction or for whatever reason earmarked, but we haven't yet determined, I don't think, the status of those. But those are municipal drain, not just culverts. Those are municipal drain infrastructure.
Thank you. Any other questions? We have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? That motion's carried. Item B, memo number 046-2022 CS. It's the attendance at conferences. I have a draft resolution. Be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of memo number 046-2022-CS, and be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores approves the attendance of Mayor LaFerriere and a councillor to be named tonight to the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Roma Conference scheduled for January 22nd to January 24th, 2023 in Toronto. And that council acknowledges that Councillor Whalen will also be attending the Roma Conference as president of the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, FNUM. And further, be it resolved that the expenses incurred in attending the said conference be covered in accordance to the municipal business travel and expense policy. And further, that all members are to express their availability and interest for all other delegations to be set out in council resolution for consideration at a future meeting of council. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Foley. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Ducharme. Discussion. Councillor Whalen.
Yeah, just for an update to the other new members of council, there's various conferences over the year where the city is able to interact directly with the various ministers. I'm in the position where, in the case of the Roma conference, 100% of my costs are picked up by my federation membership. but I can still conduct city business while I'm there, so there is a benefit to the city. Other conferences, the city maybe has to pick up the registration fee, and my associations will pay all my other costs. So my costs never, they're roughly maybe 1/3 of what it would cost to send a city delegate to the conference, but I could still conduct business on behalf or go in with his worship if he has a delegation. So I just want council to be aware of how that works. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Whelan. Any other comments? Does somebody have an interest in attending that conference? Councillor Wilson?
Sorry, yes, I certainly would have an interest in attending that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ducharme, you're interested as well?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
of interest.
Any other comments? And I know there was a request to go out for delegations for this conference, and Amy and myself and Mark did participate as well, just identifying a number of different items. And we have requested, 2 delegations, and it's actually 3 where we've consolidated an effort with the town of Kirkland Lake. So I guess at this time, maybe Amy, since we do have 2 other interested folks, maybe we consider sending another delegate. Your thoughts?
Sorry, I can speak a little bit to the memo and just some feedback. So on the second page, I did include a schedule of 2022 conferences that are typically attended by municipalities. So these are typically the political ones that represent municipal interests across the province. And the idea would be that everyone gets a bit of an equal opportunity to participate. So the budget that we've set and the proposed is typical to what they've had in the past, keeping in mind we're just getting back out of virtual now. So some of these conferences have been postponed. I think it would be great if everyone would review and express their interest, especially for the future conferences, because there is also a couple coming up in, things like commitments like PDAC conference in March. I've given you just a little snapshot of what each association is about, where the conference is going to be located, and kind of set an estimate budget that then could be worked into the final draft budget to be considered. And then it would be, I guess, up to council to kind of determine how many delegates. I don't think there's any set, it's just a matter of budgeting the amounts and setting out what you feel comfortable for in attending. The other thing is that most of the conferences, so not with PDAC, but AMO for sure, Roma, and OGRA gives you the opportunity to request delegations with the ministers, where you can ask to meet with Municipal Affairs or Minister of Transportation for some of your items of interest, to request a meeting to discuss. So those are usually done in advance, and then it's expected that those delegates attend to try to have those meetings as well as attend the conference package. So
Okay.
I think the interest, you can just express interest.
So thank you for that. So we do have 2 other interested folks in attending this particular conference, and I know it's pretty tight timeline. So I guess I'm just looking for direction for council. Do we want to add a second delegate? Councillor Whelan?
I think one of the strongest messages we got across during the municipal election is the need to strongly lobby both levels of government. So I would certainly support both names being added, realizing again, without, my cost is free and clear. So there's a benefit there to the municipality as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or any other comments? So just a friendly amendment to the motion that was in front of us. So be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores approves the attendance of Mayor LaFerriere, Councillors Wilson and Councillor Ducharme to the Rural Ontario Municipal Roma Conference scheduled for January 22nd to the 24th in Toronto. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Item C, memo number 047, 2022 CS. It's a digital media strategy, Northern Ontario Mining Showcase proposal. And I have a motion in front of me that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of memo number 047, 2022 CS for information purposes. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, yeah, a mover and a seconder, please. Thanks, Councillor Graydon. Seconder. Thanks, Councillor Peltier-Living. That's why I have my boss sitting beside me here. All those in favor? And that motion's carried. Item D, Administration Report CS 045, 2022, the O&R land purchase sale. And I do have a motion in front of me. Be it resolved that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of Administration Report CS 045, 2022, and that Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Ontario Northland Transportation Commission to complete the purchase legally described as PIN 61397-0923 LT, being lots 226-230 on Plan M73NB, City of Temiskaming Shores, in the amount of $4,250, plus appraisal costs in the amount of $3,500, plus applicable taxes and legal fees for consideration at the December 6, 2022 regular council meeting. And further, that the above property then be declared as surplus to municipal needs and proceed with the sale of land in accordance with the city's disposal of real estate property policy. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Wayland. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Graydon. And maybe Shelley, if you could just give us maybe a little bit of background on this.
Sure. So this is not something that you would typically see on a council agenda. So you would see land purchases and land sales. In this case, we are purchasing the property from O&R to assist a business within our community expand. The reason for that is O&R, the process to sell land to municipality is a lot quicker than to sell to someone in the public. So we are purchasing the property. The cost of the sale, along with the appraisal fees and all legal fees associated with the purchase and then the sale, will be covered off by the business. And of course, when it comes time to sell the property, we will follow our policy in place to dispose of that piece of land properly, knowing that Time is very interested in purchasing that. So the purpose of their purchase, again, is to expand their business. They've recently purchased other property surrounding that, so they're looking to really get ahead and expand their business up in Hellebray.
Thanks, Shelley. Any questions, any comments, concerns? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Item E, Administration Report Number PPP 005, 2022, Harris Township Fire Services Agreement. And I have a motion in front of me. The Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of Administration Report Number PPP-005-2022, and that Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Township of Harris for the provision of fire protection services for consideration at the December 6th, 2022 regular council meeting. Can I get a mover? Thanks. Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Foley. And Steve, maybe I could just get you to give us a little bit of background on this, please. Thanks.
Thanks, Your Worship. Our Harris Fire Protection Agreement, staff is recommending that we renew our fire protection agreement with Harris Township. The agreement's been in place since 2008 and is set to expire December 31st. No significant changes. We have removed plans review from the services provided. Harris has a chief building official that does all their plans review. We're also going to change the wording in section 4.2, just tweak it to reflect the appointment of a fire chief. The fee structure does remain the same, and it's indexed annually by the Consumer Price Index, so no changes there. Just, are there any questions?
Awesome, thanks, Steve. Any questions?
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Just out of interest, how is Harris dispatched? Is that typically through Diamond, or how do you proceed with a Harris call?
So it would be, they would call 911, goes to our dispatch center, and Diamond Fire Department is kicked out. On occasion, I mean, the dispatchers can only give the information they get. Not uncommon to see our new Liskeard station sent out, but it's just a radio, and Liskeard keeps responding, but lets Diamond know it's in their response area.
Okay. And are there any particular special exposures in Harris, or is it pretty straightforward rural?
Pretty straightforward. I think they would have more of a wildland fire concern than we do in Temiskaming Shores. The rest is really all residential.
Yeah, and I noticed in the agreement. As far as if there's a situation where our resources are needed, that you have provisions for that in the agreement. And I mean, I realize there aren't that many responses to Harris, but that I mean, you're fairly confident that that's not an issue as far as resources.
I want to say immediately it isn't an issue, but we did have an incident just this past week that used virtually all our resources, so it could happen.
Yeah, yep. No, that's great. I think it's an excellent agreement. It's a good way to help out the local town, a neighboring township, and also just a quick comment about last week. Excellent work, all of you on that fire last week. So
well, that certainly goes to the volunteers. We couldn't get by without our volunteer commitment. It's second to none.
You can pass on our congratulations to them. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Peltier-Leving? No. Councillor Graydon?
Just a quick question, just to clarify, Harris has no volunteer department at all?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, any other questions? We have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Go to item F, Administration Report Number RS 019-2022, the Community Fridge Memorandum of Understanding. I have a motion in front of you. The Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of Administration Report Number RS 019-2022, and that Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a Memorandum of Understanding with the Community Food Action Network and the Temiskaming Shores Public Library for the purposes of operating a community fridge program for consideration at the December 6th, 2022 regular council meeting. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Peltier-Leving. Seconder. Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Maybe Matt, I could just get you to come up and maybe share a little bit of background on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. So as outlined in the report, the Community Fridge MOU is a tri-party partnership that will bring a community fridge to the city. This is in line with our goals of the age-friendly and healthy kids programs. And staff are recommending that we enter into this agreement to begin this program later on this year. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt? No? Councillor Peltier-Leving.
Just a comment that I think it's a great program, and I was just curious, it says in the analysis that the library is open 7 days a week, and I was not aware of that. Or did I misunderstand the meaning of that?
My understanding was that it was open 7 days a week, at least some time, but I could be mistaken. The purpose of using the library is that it's open for general community service, and that people don't have to pay to enter. They can come into that building without having to purchase something or have any other purpose for being there. So that was the reason that we decided on that as a potential partner.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Go to item G, the administration report number RS 020-2022, greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And I do have a motion. The Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of administration report number RS 020-2022, greenhouse gas emissions inventory for information purposes. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Graydon. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Foley. And Matt Orr. Awesome. We have Abigail. Abigail, do you want to just...
Hi. So as stated in this report, the city is a member of the Partners for Climate Protection Program, which is a 5-milestone framework that helps to guide municipalities through effective climate action. Over the past few months, we've been working really hard on milestone 1 of the program, which is creating a baseline greenhouse gas emissions inventory. On November 2nd, we received approval on our inventory for our submission to the Partners for Climate Protection Program. So this greenhouse gas emissions inventory calculated that we are at an estimated 103,744 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent from our community and 1,956 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent from the smaller subset of our corporate operations. And this is for the year 2019. So please let me know if you have any further questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Abigail. Any questions? I just want to say congratulations on that first milestone. It's an awesome, place to be, and now we can start looking at setting some goals, for the municipality. So thank you so much. We do have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Item H, administration report number RS 021-2022. Award Buck Park Chalet floor repair. Motion in front of me. The Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of admin report number RS 021-2022, and that Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with Pedersen Construction 2013 Inc. for the repair of the Buck Park Chalet floor and chalet drainage in the amount of $62,540 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the December 6th, 2022 regular council meeting. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Wilson. And Matt, maybe I can just get you to give us a little bit of background on that.
This report, as states in your package, is to repair a part of the floor at the Buck Park Chalet. It's been in need of repair for a number of years now, as we've been batting around potential solutions. The RFP for this repair closed with 2 bids, and we're recommending that it be awarded to the low bid on this project. There were no concerns noted with the bid that we received. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions? Any comments? I just want to make one comment, and it's just with regards to, normally these projects would come forward when we're looking at 2023, when we do our capital budget. This project itself was planned on getting done at some point in 2022 through some operational savings, I believe, and it didn't materialize. So I just want to make sure that everybody, is aware that, if we approve this tonight, it bypasses the capital project priority piece. And I know I did have some discussions with Matt, and he feels that this is important and needs to move forward. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. So when we do go through the 2023 capital project, this one will already be approved if that's the direction council takes. Okay.
Am I to understand from the report that the floor that's there right now is unsafe and actually has not, in that part of the building, has not been used for a number of years?
That's correct.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, that is correct. So a part of the floor has not been used for a number of years now. The part of the building that is used for the washrooms and showers has a poured concrete floor and has been used for a number of years.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Item I, the administration report number RS 2022-2022 Rebecca Street Park donation. I have a motion in front of us that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of administration report number RS 022-2022 and that Council approve the reallocation of funds in the 2022 capital budget from the Pool Fitness Center roof replacement project in the amount of $6,046 to the Rebecca Street Park project, and that Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into an agreement with ABC Recreation for the purchase of playground equipment for the Rebecca Street Park in the amount of $25,595.20 plus applicable taxes for consideration at the December 6, 2022 regular council meeting. Can I get a mover? It's Councillor Foley. Seconded by Councillor Ducharme. And Matt, do you want to give us a little bit of background on that as well, please? Thanks.
Sure. So this project, as it's outlined in the reports, the city had agreed to partially fund the purchase of this playground equipment earlier this year as part of a donation agreement with a local resident. And with the with the funds available in the PFC roof project, we felt it was best to complete this purchase now before any potential changes in pricing come to fruition later on, since we do have the space to keep this equipment over the winter months. So we are recommending that we reallocate some funds that are otherwise going to go unused in our 2022 capital budget and purchase this piece of equipment from ABC Recreation as we are required to do as stated in our donation agreement.
Thanks, Matt. Any questions? We have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Item J, administration report number RS 023-2022, the Rotary Splash Pad update. I have a motion in front of me. The Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of administration report number RS 023-2022, Rotary Splash Pad update for information purposes. And Matt, did you want to just give us a little bit of overview?
With regards to the Rotary Splash Pad, we had outputted a RFP for the remaining construction required for this project. Earlier, a few months ago, we did not receive any bids for that RFP. As such, we are considering our options to move forward with this. We also have some constraints with regards to funding that were outlined in the report. We are proposing to issue a revised RFP with a smaller scope that could be more attractive for potential contractors to bid on, with the bulk of with the remaining work to be done either by all their subcontractors or city staff. We would bring forward further recommendations after this revised RFP was awarded to a potential contractor. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. I guess I should get a mover and a seconder for that motion. Thanks, Councillor Graydon. Seconded by Councillor Wilson. Any comments or questions? Councillor Ducharme?
Is there any specialized, not being an expert in installing splash pads, is there anything specialized in this installation that couldn't be covered by local contractors in terms of the plumbing or anything like that as you break up the RFP?
So based on our understanding, we don't believe that there is specialized knowledge necessary to do this, although it would be preferable. The issue that we have is that because we've terminated our agreement with our previous contractor, we have already purchased the splash pad elements from a certain manufacturer, and those splash pad element manufacturers are all contract tied to certain installers in various areas. So there's a limited pool of specialized installers available to us to potentially do this project. And further, they typically complete their projects from start to finish and are less likely to take on something midway. So that is why we have to pivot a little and try something a little bit different. But essentially, to answer your question, we believe that local contractors could complete this. It's just going to take some additional work from our staff that we otherwise wouldn't have to provide.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments? We have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Item K, Administration Report Number PW030-2022, Award Contract Transit Services. I have a motion in front of me that Council for the City of Temiskaming Shores acknowledges receipt of Administration Report PW030-2022 and that Council hereby awards PW RFP 007-2022 to 947465 Ontario Limited, operating as Voyago, and direct staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a 3-year agreement with 947465 Ontario Limited, operating as Voyago, for the provision of public transit services in the amount of $783,596 plus applicable taxes for year 1, with an annual CPI increase being applied for years 2 and 3 for consideration at the December 20th, 2022 regular council meeting, and that council hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a 3-year lease agreement with 947465 Ontario Limited, operating as Voyago, for the use of city-owned transit fleet under the contract for consideration at the December 20th, 2022 regular council meeting, and that council hereby directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to enter into a 3-year lease agreement with Bumstead Trucking Limited for the use of the premises known as 41 Golding Street, New Liskeard, Ontario, in the amount of $51,000 per year, including utilities and applicable taxes, for consideration at the December 20th, 2022 regular council meeting. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Pelche-Living. Seconded by Councillor Whalen. Mr. McCrank, can you give us maybe just a little bit of background on that?
Sure. So as the report states, staff is looking for a recommendation on the award of the contract. As per the recommendation from the Transit Committee. Further to that, we're looking for direction from council. Staff is looking for direction to prepare those necessary bylaws. So there is 3 bylaws that we're looking for. One would be the provision of the service itself. One would be the provision of leasing the buses to the contractor, and one is for the leasing of the facility. I won't get into further into the background and the analysis. Hoping that each of you read the report. If there's any questions, though, I'm more than willing to help. So.
Thanks, Mitchell. Any questions? Councillor Whalen?
Yeah, not a question, just thank you to the Transit Committee for dealing with this so quickly in your, taking your position here, but it's nice to see. I also want to thank Mitch. I know the position we put him in dealing with this at the last minute was a lot like pushing an elephant up the stairs, so thanks for all your work on this. I do, after reading up on this company, I do think we have a lot to learn about transit, and I think this is a good opportunity, so thanks again.
Thanks, Councillor Whalen. Any other comments? Councillor Wilson?
I just want to repeat what Councillor Whalen said. Great work on this whole project, and it was well prepared for the Transit Committee. And I again appreciate the effort that's gone into this. And I also agree that the company, has a great history, and they provide transit in communities similar to ours, and they seem to be very effective at what they do. So, yeah, thanks.
Any other comments? Councillor Ducharme?
I just wanted to thank the staff because it was a lot to come up to speed with under very tight timelines and a lot of pressure to put something, for all of you, to put something in place under tight timelines with our, limited experience, let's say. So I think a good decision has been made, and I think we could move forward and learn from this company. I saw them all over Toronto last week, paratransit, all different kinds of transit. I guess once you see one, you're always watching for them. So thank you for your help.
Thanks, Councillor Ducharme. Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion in front of us. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Moving on to bylaws. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-169, being a bylaw to authorize the purchase of land from the Ontario Northland Transportation Commission, being lots 226-230 on Plan M 73 NB Browning Street. We also have bylaw number 2022-170, being a bylaw to enter into a fire protection agreement with the Corporation of the Township of Harris and to repeal bylaw number 2017-107. Bylaw number 2022-171, being a bylaw to enter into a memorandum of understanding between the Community Food Action Network, the Temiskaming Shores Public Library, and the City of Temiskaming Shores for the purpose of operating a community fridge program. Bylaw number 2022-172, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with Pedersen Construction 2013 Inc. for the repair of Buck Park Chalet floor and chalet drainage. Bylaw number 2022-173, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with ABC Recreation for the purchase of playground equipment for the Rebecca Street Park. And bylaw number 2022-174, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy clerk for the City of Temiskaming Shores and repeal bylaw 2022-069, be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. Could I get a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Graydon. A seconder? Councillor Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Draft resolution be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-169, 170, 171, 172, 173, and 174 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. Can I get a mover? Councillor Whalen. Seconded by Councillor Foley. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion is carried. On to item 17, schedule of council meetings. So A, we have regular meeting of council scheduled for December 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And B, a regular meeting of council to be held on January the 17th, 2023 at 6 p.m. This brings us to our second question and answer period. Any questions? Mr. Lafleur, how are you tonight?
Is it the city's position that they are going to have only 2 lanes on the new part of the street that they just paved? On Rourke Avenue?
Is it, are we moving to just 2 lanes? Is that your question? Sorry?
That's what you got right now.
Okay. Maybe, Mitch, is there?
At this time, no.
Well, you have no dividing line. I think the Department of MTO would suggest that if you don't have that line, you only got 1 street going each way.
So yes, after the paving happened this fall, center line painting was put down, right? So you have the dividing line in the middle. The hash lines weren't able to get on, and considering the late timeliness of the work, it was decided that it would be better off not to put that hashed white line because it would likely be removed immediately following winter operations. So it is the intent of to have those lines on there. It's just the timing of everything, it didn't allow for that hashed white.
I think by law I cannot go on beside somebody else who's next to the center line. I think there has to be designated lines. Safety, number 1. And
We'll take that away, Mr. Lafleur, and we will, look into it and get back, to you on that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Answers? No. Okay. Thank you. We don't have a closed session, and moving on to item 20. I have a draft resolution in front of me. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-175, being a bylaw to confirm certain proceedings of council of the corporation of the city of Temiskaming Shores for its special meeting held on November 22nd, 2022, and its regular meeting held on December the 6th, 2022, be hereby introduced and given first and second reading. Can I get a mover, please? It's Councillor Graydon. By Councillor Peltier-Living. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? The motion is carried. Draft resolution, be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-175 be given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. Can I get a mover? Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Second, Councillor Foley. Discussion. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And 21 brings us to adjournment. Be it resolved, the council hereby adjourns its meeting at 7:10. Can I get a mover? Councillor Peltier-Living. Seconder, Councillor Foley. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.